Get ready to move the conversation forward. This ain't your granddad's news and comment show. This is I Doubt It Podcast with Brittany Page and Jesse Dollamore.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Episode 911 of I Doubt It Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jesse Dollamore, and I'm joined, as always, by the lovely, talented, and indeed scholarly Brittany Page.
Well, we're back to our normal environment where we are sitting by ourselves in a room with no people around, talking into a camera.
No live studio audience.
Yeah, we did a live event. We were invited to give a talk on our respective journeys from white supremacy, conservatism, and white Christian nationalism to progressive activism, which we do now. And that we were invited by the Triangle Free Thought Society to give a talk in North Carolina. And it went really well.
Yeah.
It went really well. It was our first time doing something like that. Like I said, we're normally just sitting in a room together talking into a camera or by ourselves sitting in a room talking into a camera.
And sometimes not even a camera, just a microphone and a recording device.
Yeah. And so we haven't really stood before an audience and talked about our personal stories. And we have been talking about starting to do live events, and that would look very different, I think, from the event that we did in for the Triangle Free Thought Society. But how was it for you, Jesse? How was it speaking before the live audience about your journey from those previously mentioned things to progressive activism?
I mean, it was great. It was interesting. It was a learning process. It was something different I've never done before. So, like, I'm more of an extemporaneous speaker. I don't do well. Like, I had a hard time following my notes because I don't just stand in one place, and like there was no teleprompter. So I'd walk around a little bit, shift and shimmy, and then lose my place in my notes. But, I was overall very, very pleased with the audience reception. A lot of people came up afterward and wanted to say hi and take pictures and ask follow-up questions, even after the Q&A session. It was awesome. And also, there was a lot of people. I mean, it was a room, so it wasn't like a giant auditorium, and they ran out of chairs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people showed up. It was great.
Yeah, great for the organization, and it was a cool thing. I definitely got nervous at the start of my talk because I showed some childhood photos that I will sometimes show to people when I'm meeting with people, like on a one-on-one basis, and I start talking about my background being raised in the white power movement. And the photos I have never shared publicly because once I do that, they will no longer belong to me.
But you never tweeted them out. You've never posted them online.
Yeah. And I try to be thoughtful about it because it's true that once I put them out into the world, they will no longer belong to me, and I can't control how they're used or who posts them. And so that's kind of a daunting reality. But I decided to show them during the presentation. It's not the first time I've done that. I actually had to do a presentation in grad school where I had to talk about my cultural upbringing and my childhood. And so I showed one picture in particular of me and my sister sitting in front of a swastika flag hanging in our garage when we were kids. And it's always something that when I am showing it to people one-on-one, they are like horrified by it.
Like audible gasps. Oftentimes.
Yeah. And I guess I wasn't prepared for standing in front of an audience of people and seeing that look on more than one person's face. Okay.
But it replicated the one-on-one moment just en masse.
Yes, and I was not prepared for that. And so it made me a little nervous at first when I started talking, and there were a lot of things that I forgot to cover, but I think ultimately it went pretty well for my first time doing something like that and showing those pictures, and I'm grateful to the audience for being super cool about it and asking a lot of really great questions. The Q&A I think was my favorite part, where we were able to just talk about things, you know, off the cuff. And we want to give a shout out to Marcus and Vicky because...
Hello, Marcus.
Marcus is, of course, a longtime supporter, longtime listener of the show. And Marcus and Vicky are just some of the best people that you will ever meet. It's just beautiful humans. And we're so grateful to know them. They are awesome people, and we're grateful for their friendship. And we met several listeners, and some Patreon supporters came out. Like, shout out to Noah. Noah, we're waiting to hear from you on your graduate school decision. And
a past voicemail sender inner.
Yes.
Noah.
And there was, I think, Tina and another Vicky, not Marcus Vicky, but another Vicky that came out. And then there was also Zagslav. And hopefully I'm saying it right this time. I practiced.
Patron.
Yes, a Patreon supporter who came out. And, we're just grateful that people took time out of their Saturday to come and hang out with us and chat with us about politics, whatever came up. It was awesome.
And he drove in from like Charlotte.
Oh, wow.
Govslav or what?
Zagslav.
Yeah, he drove in from Charlotte.
So yeah, thank you for that, and look forward to more announcements about live events. They won't be like us standing in front of a PowerPoint talking about our personal histories. We're hoping to do live events where it's more like the show format, where we do like a Taking Care of Biz, and we do listener communication, but it's from the audience, stuff like that is more what we're thinking. Would be great.
And we may or may not, I haven't gotten the audio yet, but we may even release the talk in some format, maybe as a bonus episode or maybe just release it as an episode. We haven't heard it, so I don't know how quality or what we could do with it. So
yeah.
So again, thanks to Marcus and Vicky. You guys are just amazing, and it's one of the innumerable benefits of having started this show and had the community build up around this show is that we get to meet and grow relationships with certain whatever the number is in our audience, and Marcus and Vicky are absolutely among them. We love and appreciate you guys very much. Real quickly, can I plug something?
I mean, this is your show too, so yeah, you get to plug whatever you want. That's the benefit of having your show, I think. Having a show, you get to plug stuff.
Well, the other co-host in my life is Ian Brinksman, and we are right now recording. In fact, the episode 3 goes up on Monday at 2 p.m.
Ooh.
The John Adams podcast that we've got a bobblehead right next to you of Ian's mug.
Yeah.
And a bunch of John Adams paraphernalia around us.
Don't remind me.
This is going up on YouTube at 2 p.m. on Mondays, every episode. We may do 10. And then also it's on audio. So if you have Apple Podcasts, or if you have, wherever you listen to podcasts, go search out HBO's John Adams podcast. I keep doing that too. And subscribe to the audio version as well as checking out what it is on YouTube.
Yeah, and if you love history, if you love critiques of presidents, if you love Jesse D.
Yeah, more importantly.
If you love Ian, then you should definitely listen to the show. It's very entertaining. I think it's more entertaining than watching HBO's John Adams. And did I do it too?
John Adams. No, I think you did it right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do want to say, though, Ian launched a vicious attack on me on the upcoming episode, and Jesse played it for me, I think, to prepare me for the vicious attack that is to come.
Does it make you more nervous than showing your Nazi childhood pictures? The vicious attack?
No, it made me enraged. And I'm actually going to set a trap for him next time he shows up at the studio here.
Wow.
And we're going to fight. It's going to be a fight club.
This podcast coming soon to ears and eyes near you.
But we have more housekeeping in addition to Jesse plugging his other podcast. Is we do bonus episodes for our Patreon supporters for this here podcast, I Doubt It podcast, which is continuing. People,
yeehaw! This here podcast.
Really,
proceed.
The music should play whenever I talk, especially about my background. And so For our Patreon supporters, well, first of all, people were worried that this show was ending when Jesse announced that he was doing his show with Ian. They're like, what's happening to the other shows? Because people get freaked out by change. And that's, we get that. But no, the show is not ending after 10 years and almost 900 episodes. It's still
almost 925 episodes.
Yeah, it's still continuing. So one thing that we do for our Patreon supporters is bonus episodes, and we do them once a month, and we got such great feedback on our most recent one where Jesse and I listed our 10 hates and 10 loves. I stole this idea from an account called Dream Baby Press, where they ask like figures in the media to list their 10 loves and 10 hates. And people just love this. We had a Patreon supporter, Ryan, who says, you got me crying here with some of these. We had Isaac, a Patreon supporter, who said, man, I love these bonus episodes and this is the best one so far. We had Bryant, who said, I love these bonus episodes so much. These love and hates are so relatable, and it's such a great reminder about how much we all have in common despite the siloing of our culture and how isolating it can be.
Wow.
I laughed out loud several times throughout and look forward to more bonus content like this.
That's an amazing response.
I know. It was awesome. So we would appreciate it if you guys would check that out for Patreon supporters. Make sure you're listening to those bonus episodes and take advantage of that.
We've had some people reach out and say we should make that one public to titillate the audience to become a patron. We haven't decided on whether we want to do that or not. Maybe we'd just open it up to the rest of the audience and see if they'd be interested.
Yeah, pressure us and we'll do it.
Yeah. So thank you guys. We listen, anytime somebody gives positive feedback on the content that we create, on the shows that we do, it means a lot because let me tell you, even on bonus episodes, work goes into that. It's not just we both think about it. We put lists together. It's the same kind of preparative advance work that gets done for any other episode. So,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Moving on to today's sponsor, Uplift Standing Desk.
In this increasingly technological world that we live, we only seem to spend more time hunched over our gadgets. Legs pretzeled and twisted and backs arched, staring at the almighty screen. We are better than this. We need to stand up for ourselves, improve our bodies and our brains.
That's why Jesse and I changed to an Uplift standing desk. Standing while prepping the show has completely improved our efficiency by amplifying our focus and boosting the flow of ideas and blood circulation. Studies have shown using a standing desk can also increase your energy and lower your risk of disease. Your health and work deserve a raise.
Go to upliftdesk.com/IDoubtIt and use code IDoubtIt at checkout to get 5% off and take your fitness and productivity to new heights. Raising standing desk. With over 6,000 5-star Google reviews, we're not the only satisfied customers. The New York Times Wirecutter has chosen Uplift Desk as their standing desk of choice for 5 years running.
Since Uplift desks are super stable, you can switch between sitting and standing configurations with the single tap of a button. And there's more than 100 desktop styles and tons of accessories to choose from, including 4 for free with every desk purchase. Uplift Desk also offers a 15-year warranty, free shipping, and free returns with free return shipping.
Are you ready to prioritize your health and productivity? Move more with Uplift Desk. Head to upliftdesk.com/IDoubtIt or just click the link below to score 5% off of your first purchase when you use code IDoubtIt at checkout. Work better, live healthier with Uplift Desk.
So thank you to Uplift Desk for sponsoring a portion of today's episode. We appreciate it very much. Moving on, listen, part of the whole giddy up, if you will, up to going back to the banjo music, the giddy up. Part of the makeup of the show has been formed, and the mission of the show has been changed over time based on listener communication, which we're going to get to now. If you'd like to communicate with the show, it is 657-464-7609. That is our Google voicemail number at which you can leave a fewer than 3-minute voicemail. You will get cut off if it goes over, just based on the programmatic requirements of Google. You can also email a voice memo from your smartphone or a regular old-fashioned email to IDoubtIt@dollamore.com. What do we got? Brittany Page.
We are going to start with an email to follow up on some news from our previous episode about a recall election that was taking place in Oklahoma after a city council member there, Judd Blevins, was exposed.
Judd Blevins.
His ties to white supremacy were uncovered. So this is an email that we received. Good morning, Jesse and Brittany, and of course, an extra special good morning, Sweepy. I wanted to let you guys know that I get to be really proud of my state today. In Enid, they ousted the white supremacist Judd Blevins, and here in Tulsa, in my district, we blocked the Moms for Liberty candidate for the Oklahoma School Board.
Very good.
Also, Jesse, I saw that Garrison Hayes' YouTube channel got a 10,000 subscriber bump from you. That's awesome AF. Thank you all, Sweepy included, for everything you do. I love you all, and your righteous indignation is the best part. Your friend, Rick from Tulsa.
Rick from Tulsa. Thank you, Rick. Listen, good news did come out of Oklahoma, and there was a little bit of good news for my new pal, Garrison Hayes, which, by the way, I guess we should just plug him now.
Yeah, that's a fantastic channel. He's awesome. He makes great videos, and you shouted out some of his work in your recent video, and he did get this tremendous subscriber bump. That's so awesome.
Yeah. And also well deserved. We talk a lot about luck on this show. We talk about how lucky we are to have achieved whatever modicum of success we have doing what we do, whether it be the podcast or on YouTube. Absolutely 80% because of luck, 85% of luck. Some people would disagree and think it's all luck. They're wrong, but what are you going to do?
And some people would say there's no luck.
Right. That's absolutely false. And Garrison Hayes not having the number of subscribers that he deserves is just more proof of this. He's putting in good work, doing amazing reporting, highlighting issues that don't get enough attention, and hopefully now it's like just the beginning of him kicking ass on YouTube. So go subscribe to Garrison Hayes, and thanks to the listener for sharing that. I would have not remembered to even talk about it.
Yes. So we have another email before we get to some voicemails. This is also about our previous episode where we had Ian on. Ian, Jesse's other co-host for the HBO's John Adams podcast. Be sure to check that out. New episode dropping Monday. And you see how smooth that was?
Working real hard. That's good.
Better be getting a commission. So this is
there is no commission to be had.
This is from Mitch from Canada. Dear Jesse and Brittany, as a devoted listener from Canada, I felt compelled to share my thoughts for the first time, particularly after listening to your discussion on episode 910, which tackled listener feedback regarding abortion rights. The discussion struck me as an example of candy politics, where votes are like treats given to favored politicians. The commentary seemed to frame the Democratic Party's worthiness for votes as being the lesser of two evils, focusing less on tangible policy achievements. While I acknowledge that no party is perfect, I found the tone somewhat cynical. It seemed to imply that, quote, the Democrats lack the specific accomplishments was due to not trying at all. This perspective overlooks the intricate realities of political representation and the progress made in response to constituents' demands. A quick look at the legislative history of the Democratic-led Congresses would reveal their efforts in addressing the very issues that some critics claim to have completely ignored. Moreover, blaming the entire Democratic Party for not securing abortion rights seems unfair, especially considering it wasn't a top priority for many voters at the time. Even then, very many Democrats in Congress made multiple efforts to get legislation passed to address these issues. See, for example, the history of the EACH Act. The same can be said about immigration reform, gun regulation. I believe it is the job of media, especially left-leaning media, to inform the public about the work that Democrats in Congress are doing, even failed attempts. Failing to do that gives the erroneous impression that they aren't trying. Voters need to know the reasons why attempts failed and the policy and the specific politicians responsible, if any. For example, Kyrsten Sinema, Joe Manchin. Elections should then focus on which specific candidates are best equipped to represent our interests and drive positive change, not on rewarding or punishing a generic, amorphous entity called the Democrats. A candidate's accomplishments should be evaluated based on the priorities of voters during his tenure, not merely on retrospective critiques over a period when issues were not prioritized by voters. I hope the next time you feel tempted to criticize the Democrats in this way, the phrase rolls off your tongue and falls on the floor, and you will instead focus on specific actions by specific Democrats or specific policies and actions of the Democratic Party. Please leave the phrase the Democrats to Jimmy Dore and Tulsi Gabbard. Thank you for your engaging content. Mitch from Canada.
Well, Mitch, listen, thank you for a very well-written, well-constructed email that is filled with all kinds of nuttiness. I'm teasing about the nuttiness. But listen, if you want to talk about policy achievements, I wish you would have listed some. What have the Democrats done to secure abortion rights in this country since Roe was affirmed by the Supreme Court in 1973? I'll wait. Where's my cricket? Obviously, I will be waiting a long time because there has been nothing done to secure abortion rights, to codify abortion rights in this country by Democrats, by any Democrats. And to say that it wasn't a priority, they haven't done anything because it wasn't a priority. Maybe it's folly of me to assume that you are a man. But maybe it wasn't a priority for you. Well, certainly not, being a Canadian. But I can tell you there are tens of millions of voters in this country for whom abortion rights were a priority, and it was just ignored by the Democrats. I am a lot of things. Cynical is not one. But I am absolutely pointing to items like you want media to do. You want us to educate. You want us to point out these things, educate our audiences. That's what we're doing by pointing out, and by virtue of pointing it out, hopefully pressuring the Democrats to do something when they do gain a majority in both houses of Congress and the presidency. And hopefully, based on our efforts to educate our audience, gain an obstructionist-proof majority in those houses.
So I disagree with I agree with Mitch. So I guess I was going to say I disagree with you, but there's nothing I can really point to other than I agree with what Mitch is saying. And I tried to get out in front of this a little too late in the episode on 910, where I don't remember what the conversation was, but it was a long time after we had this conversation that Mitch is referencing here about the Democrats and their failure to codify Roe and get out in front of this problem. And I brought it back around to, well, the Democrats need to have a majority in the House and the Senate, and they need to have the presidency in order to fully enact legislation that they need to enact, because otherwise Republicans are going to get in the way. Kristen Sinema is going to get in the way. Joe Manchin is going to get in the way. And that's also why we need to elect progressives. And Ian didn't like that response. He was like, oh, so we just have to keep voting for Democrats because blah, blah, blah. And we're like, well, yeah, so that's what we need to do. So I tried to get out in front of this criticism, is what I'm saying, from Mitch, by bringing it back around to the representation difficulty, where it is more nuanced than just the Democrats failed to do this, the Democrats failed to do that. And I understand what Mitch is saying, for sure. I do think there are difficulties when you're having a live conversation with somebody in getting to all of those things, because we could sit around and talk about that for an hour, but we can't do that with the show. We had other stuff that we needed to get to.
That's true for sure.
And I know that just sounds like an excuse, but it's true. Like, we kind of have this balance of, there's some stuff that I need to challenge, but I need to move this along. And that balance, I think I failed during that initial conversation. And that's why I attempted to bring it back around to kind of correct the record a little bit. So, it wasn't well done. It was messy. And I definitely take responsibility for that, because we do take our platform seriously, and we do want to be a show that gets to the nuances here with a lot of this stuff. And so, of course, we can talk about the American Rescue Plan. We can talk about the CHIPS Act. The Democrats have a lot of achievements under their belt in working with a a difficult Republican Party that is only prioritizing Trump and election denialism, and Joe Manchin, luckily is going away. Kirsten Sinema is going away, but hopefully those two examples are lessons to people about what does happen when we don't have progressives in positions of power. Like, that is what is hindering this. And we try to talk about that quite often. So could we do that more? Of course. And I think that, this is a good reminder that we should do that.
So thank you very much for the email, Mitch. I would put a call out to the audience. There have been many times over the course of American political history since 1973 that Democrats have held both the executive in the presidency and both houses of Congress. Somebody please let me know some cogent, workable, effective, transformative legislation that has been passed to protect abortion rights in this country. Somebody. I'll be waiting for that. I think we have a voicemail here from Chicago.
Hey, Jesse. Hey, Brittany. Love your work. Love you guys. This is Julia calling from Chicago. Just want to say that, I'm not sure what your belief system is at this point. I believe it's non-existent. You used to maybe have one, and that didn't work out well. And I totally get that. But there are many liberal voters who have a faith in a higher power. I am one of them. My faith has evolved over time. I certainly don't associate with anything like evangelical Christian behavior at all. But it just makes me sad to see all the attacks on anyone who has any beliefs in the comment section of your YouTube channel, David Pakman's and other progressive channels. It really makes me sad. And maybe I'm just an idiot for thinking that we deserve respect too. But anyway, appreciate the work that you both do, and keep it up. God bless. Take care. Whatever those suits you. Okay. Bye.
You are not, did you say an idiot for thinking that you deserve respect? Because that's definitely not the case.
Nor is your opinion idiotic.
Yeah. First, I want to jump back to the comment. It made me... It made me smile at the beginning when Julia said that they are unaware of what our belief system is now. Maybe it's non-existent. And okay, I mean, like, even if you're not a believer, I don't know that non-existent is the best description there, because I would say, obviously, I've been on a journey with that. I no longer would consider myself a believer, but
it's a very Christian-centric thing to say.
Yeah, my belief system is humanism, and so that is what my belief system is. I wouldn't say that it's non-existent. I would say that I prioritize what is best for people and what's best for people on Earth, and how we're going to move forward, and the progress that we can make to improve people's lives right now.
Not being a Christian doesn't mean you don't believe anything.
Yeah, and this is a good example of something that happened at the event, actually, that we just spoke at, the Triangle Free Thought Society, where it is an organization of non-believers, whatever their label may be, atheist, agnostic,
humanist,
whatever the label.
Yeah.
And there were people that came to the event who knew nothing about the organization, who came up to us afterwards and were like, what's going on here? Like, are you a part of this? Because I'm a believer and I don't know what this is. And I think the organization accepts advocacy and support from anyone as long as they have shared values. And it really comes down to that. And Julia, you're making it sound like you have shared values. So you don't consider yourself to be a white Christian nationalist. You consider yourself to be a believer. And yeah, I don't think that anyone should be disrespected because they believe in God. I don't appreciate the community of atheists, for example, who use things like Sky Daddy and talk about things in negative terms like that. I think it's insulting. And obviously, religious belief can be a powerful motivator for people to get out of bed, to not feel depressed. I have seen this in my work as a therapist. So I would never disrespect someone for choosing to believe, as long as they don't weaponize that belief and then hurt other people.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I had a young guy come up to me afterward at the talk, and he asked me this very question, like, where are you? I'm just curious. Do you have do you hold derision toward Christians? And I said, look, I obviously grew up in this faith tradition. I no longer share those beliefs. But as long as you're not, like you just said, weaponizing your faith, as long as you're not using your faith as a cudgel against other people and harming other people and using it to justify bigotry and oppression, great. If it enriches your life, awesome. And that's not even, that's a true heartfelt belief. If you feel fulfilled by a belief system that doesn't harm someone else, then lean into that. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Absolutely wonderful.
Absolutely. And we're sorry that you are seeing hatred in the comments. We can't control what is in the comments. We also get hatred in the comments. It's a part of, I would say YouTube comments are some of the most toxic places to read comments.
Maybe even worse than Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, maybe other than like the Food Network Facebook page, YouTube is the most abusive place to find comments. So if you can, try to avoid it.
Yeah. Let me also say this, relative to the atheist abuse people. One of the other, this conversation happened multiple times after the event. We went and had some snacks at a restaurant with a big group of people. And people were talking about, oh, do you go to American Atheist Convention? Do you do this atheist convention, this whatever? And I'm not interested in those. And one of the reasons I'm not interested in those is because of the disrespectful, aggressive, I would say hateful messages on T-shirts that people wear, like with fuck your God and it's Jesus being crucified. Like that's just an example out of my head. There are a million more. Just disrespectful, hateful, hurtful, meaning to get under the skin and harm someone about something they believe deeply about. I'm not interested in that. And it's because of those people that very quickly when we've gone to any atheist quote unquote event, I was turned off and really just distanced myself from that movement, from that community, because I'm not interested in harming someone, hurting someone about something they feel very strongly and deeply about. If they're not using it to harm someone, let them, who cares? You know, I understand what Julie is talking about there.
Yeah. And I just want to say that they're related to this and what you were just saying, Jesse, about the different approaches that atheists can have. I think a lot of times we think of atheists as being like angry, and that can kind of be the stereotypical way. I think it's important to note that not all atheists feel that way. And I've been interested in if there's any research out there on kind of the journey of people coming out of their religious belief, and if it's almost like the grieving process, you know, where maybe you are angry and just the different ways that people can come out of the faith and how they tend to then view their previous belief and other people's belief. But I ended up writing an article years ago related to some research that I did for my thesis in grad school. It's called The 3 Shades of Atheism, and it's online, and maybe we'll link to it in the
It was
in the
published
show notes.
in Skeptic magazine, right?
Yeah. And
it was published in Michael Shermer's magazine, right? The wonderful guy, Michael Shermer?
Yes. And so it's related to the different types of atheism, though, that there are people who are very strident in their belief that there's not a God. And then there's people who are like, you know, I don't know for sure, but I don't believe in God. And yeah, it's not really that big of a deal. So just like you have Christians that profess different types of belief and different adherents to that belief, you have atheists who are in the same boat. So I think a lot of times we can slip into these stereotypes of what they're like, but they are different, just like Christians or any other population that you would look to.
Yeah, I think my answer to the guy who came up to me was that given all the evidence we have, I don't believe it. And it's not that I don't believe in Jesus Christ. I don't believe in any gods or supernatural stuff. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in angels. I don't believe in heaven. I don't believe in hell. But that's just given what we know about the world and evidence. It's not hatefully like, that's bullshit. So I just don't see the need for the aggression and the shittiness that I've seen on display so often.
Yeah.
Awesome phone call, awesome voicemail. Thank you, Julia, very much. Next up, another voicemail.
Hey, I just wanted to say I love you guys, and I hope you guys have a great day. Love and blessings to you.
That's That's the way you need to end listener communication. Are we done with listener communication?
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
I just wanted to have a nice little, sometimes we get these calls where people just tell us that they love us and appreciate us, and that's a nice thing. And
Yeah.
I want people to know that even though we don't really play those, because it's, kind of weird that we just played that one, but
It's kind of an S in our own D kind of a thing.
yeah, but it's we hear it and we appreciate it, and it's very nice.
Yeah,
So
not
thank you for
lost
that.
on
Yeah,
us
thank
at
you
all.
for that.
If you too would like to sound off, get your voice on the record, literally and figuratively, it is 657-464-7609. And of course, as always, you can email us, I doubt it, at dollamore.com. We have some follow-up that you're going to want to listen to.
Before that, we want to thank our Patreon supporters.
Oh, and then we have some follow-up that you're going to want to listen to.
So thank you to our new Patreon supporters, Stacy R,
Stacy R,
Daniel F,
Daniel F,
Michael F,
Michael F,
maybe not the pronunciation. but-
maybe Funke.
Did I say pronunciation again? Pronunciation. Oh my God, the internet is going to attack me again. What am I doing? I'm
Do
walking.
you picture how the word is spelled when you say it?
No.
Because the word scourge, I visualize the word in my head, and then I have to fight against the urge to call it scourge
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah, I need to start visualizing it because it is very obviously in the spelling pronunciation. Yes. Okay. At least I caught myself this time, everyone. All right. So I don't want to see any more comments. Blondie can't speak. Okay, I can. I did it. Okay.
So you're right now, you're drifting into Julia territory about the YouTube comments because they're coming for you.
All right. So
They are coming for you.
thank you to our new Patreon supporter, Anya EMB,
Anya EMB,
Kimba A,
Kimba A,
who is a returning Patreon supporter. I
Yes.
recognize that name. Arthur S,
Arthur S,
Evgeny P.
Evgeny P,
God, I'm the worst. Iron Cat 60.
Iron Cat 60.
I love how I'm like, I can pronounce words, and then I get the next thing I read is like, it's okay. Francine M.
Francine M.
Thank you to all of our new Patreon supporters. Like we talked about at the top of the show, we do a monthly bonus episode. We used to do Hangouts, and we haven't really talked about why we no longer do Hangouts, but this is actually a good opportunity to talk about that because they were not being utilized by a significant number of people. And we would hear feedback that it wasn't something people cared about, and that it would be better if we created a bonus that could be enjoyed by a larger number of
A
people.
wider percentage of the patrons, yeah.
Yeah, and so people seem to really like this bonus episode idea. We take a departure from talking about politics. We do more fun things, talk about songs that we like, talk about other types of media that we like, and it's lighter and I think gives people a break from the stuff that we talk about here. So
It's lighter until we did the last one and both of us were crying for a substantial portion of the bonus episode.
but it was in a good way.
Yeah, no, it's not bad. It was not light. You don't lightly cry about how much you love Sweepy or whatever, Friends and their success and whatever else we've talked about.
Yeah, so that's why we made a transition there. But another benefit of Patreon is you get an ad-free version of the show, so you don't have to hear any ads, and that's nice for everybody. So feel free to check us out, patreon.com/IDoubtItPodcast, and we would love to see you there.
And now we have some follow-up that you're going to want to hear, and it's related to the quote-unquote goon squad in Mississippi that we've been covering for months, about this team of cops, this rogue team of cops. I always use that phrase, even though it seems kind of in line with what cops do nationwide. And they abused a black man who was being reported because he was staying with a white woman across the street or something.
2 black men.
Right. And they sexually abused. They shot one, put a loaded gun in his mouth. The trigger was pulled. I'm using passive language, tongue in cheek here. And they shot him in the face. He survived. And we have follow-up.
Well, we recently talked about this story because they were sentenced on federal charges, and now they've been sentenced on state charges.
And these are the longest and strongest sentences in United States history for any police officers.
Judgment day for the Goon Squad. 5 disgraced former Rankin County deputies and an ex-Richland police officer sentenced to additional prison time after a judge rejected state prosecutor's recommendation to give the men less time behind bars for abusing 2 black men.
Been a long year, man. But it's been a short year. I'm thankful for all y'all, that's been here with us, man, for the ride. All y'all that helped us, with this fight.
Victims Eddie Parker and Michael Jenkins speaking out after the judge handed down the sentences.
It really ain't been about me. It's been about what they did to my mama, how they made her feel, and just dictating the bullying.
Sentences for Joshua Hartfield, Brett McAlpin, Jeffrey Middleton, Daniel Updike, and Christian Detman range from 15 years to 25 years. Hunter Elwood, who shot Jenkins in the mouth, was given a 45-year prison sentence. Jenkins and Parker's attorney called the judge's ruling historic.
No police officer in the history of Rankin County has ever been held criminally responsible for harming anyone, let alone a black person.
The 6 men are already serving between 17 and a half years to 40 years in prison on federal charges. They will serve the state charges concurrent with the federal sentence. Prosecutors say in January 2023, the deputies handcuffed Jenkins and Parker in their Braxton home, then tased, beat, sexually assaulted, and subjected the men to racial slurs after the law officers accused them of dating white women. While the deputies are headed to prison, the fight for justice in Rankin County isn't over.
Brian Bailey should be on notice that he may be next.
The Rankin County NAACP still demanding Sheriff Brian Bailey resign and for the U.S. Justice Department to prosecute Bailey.
The sheriff, who we consider the leader of the Goon Squad.
That's right.
So we are going to continue our fight to remove him from office.
Now, the sheriff has said he was in the dark and wasn't aware of what the Goon Squad was up to. Rankin County facing a $400 million civil lawsuit. The victim's lawyers say a court judgment against the county could bankrupt Rankin County.
Listen, this is nothing but good news relative to consequence. When you have cops, multiple cops in this case, and you fostered a culture among these people who have arrest power, detain power, they are constitutionally authorized to carry a weapon and usurp people's constitutional rights. They should be held to a high standard of behavior. And this doesn't just miss the mark. They use their power and authority under the color of law to harm, to strip away people's civil rights, and they should never be let out of prison. Good for the 45 years, good for the 15 to 25 years. Absolutely, we need more of this in America because this isn't a one-off.
Yeah, and I think that's the important thing is we've gotten feedback where people are like, okay, but how representative is this Goon Squad across the nation? How many cops are operating as though they are in a gang? And I don't know that we have an answer to that question, but what we do know is that the Goon Squad, Rankin County, is not the only county where they have gangs of police that are behaving this way. And another example of this is in Los Angeles.
There's a different kind of gang problem in Los Angeles County. The people meant to serve and protect a population of more than 9 million people, allegedly part of powerful gangs going back decades, according to watchdog groups and the alleged victims of their crimes. Groups of LA sheriff deputies with threatening names like the Banditos, the Cavemen, the Executioners. The deputies rep their cliques, tattooing their bodies with logos and throwing up gang signs. The gangs facing allegations they use violent excessive force against Angelenos.
To me, they're punks. The people that killed my sons, that executed my sons.
And intimidate fellow deputies who don't play along.
Dead rats in front of people's homes.
The terrorizing behavior costing the LA County taxpayers a fortune. The Inspector General's office counts $54 million in settlements involving deputy gang activity. The first obstacle to eradicating them, though, many past sheriffs dispute their very existence.
Well, you're still trying to pretend the deputy gang exists and work in the countryside, pillaging, plundering.
The investigation continues.
But the current sheriff, Robert Luna, who took office in late 2022, went public with his efforts to combat the problem.
We must eliminate deputy gangs.
A city and state approved civilian oversight commission released a 70-page report last year on how the sheriff's office should crack down on them. The commission's special counsel telling us they turned over a list of more than 20 recommendations. But so far, members of that oversight board, as well as attorneys for the victims, say Sheriff Luna hasn't put a stop to the gangs like he promised.
It's a lot bigger than one sheriff. It's sheriff after sheriff, administration after administration.
In a statement to NBC News, the LA Sheriff's Office say they've drafted a new law enforcement gang, clique, and subgroups policy, but that it's still under negotiation with the powerful deputies union.
We don't get it! Turn it down! We're trying to publicize the existence of the deputy gangs and put the community in power over the gangs and over the sheriff's department itself.
In the meantime, a growing chorus in LA who say it's time to stop waiting for the county or the sheriff to clean things up.
If this gang problem isn't promptly solved, that the next logical step will be federal litigation, the appointment of a monitor, and oversight by a federal judge.
Other police departments who struggled with different issues like excessive force and police bias in cities like Detroit, Seattle, and Pittsburgh all saw what officials say were significant improvements under federal oversight. But the Department of Justice so far hasn't moved in that direction. NBC News reached out to the DOJ for comment but haven't heard back. If these alleged gangs are dealt with, it won't be soon enough for people like Sergeant Rosa Gonzalez, who claims she was retaliated against for speaking out against the East LA Banditos. Gonzalez declined an on-camera interview with NBC News, saying doing so would mean facing further consequences, proving the stronghold these supposed gangs still have over one of the largest populations in the country. Priya Sridhar, NBC News.
So one thing that is difficult to do on this show is there's so much to talk about. There's so many different topics that we could be talking about. There's so many issues that we could be addressing, but we only have a limited amount of time, and we end up talking about cops a lot because I think this is one of the most important things that needs to be dealt with. I mean, similar to what Jesse just said, you have these individuals who are imbued with power from the state to carry weapons and restrict people's freedoms, and they are people that are in gangs and who are violent and who want to assault and hurt people, and that is very scary. And you know who they're going to be targeting. And I know that in Rankin County, we played a clip of a reporter talking about how they also went after white people, poor white people in the county. And there are going to be racist abuses that come out of this. They're going to be targeting people who are not white. They're going to be targeting people who live in poverty. They're going to be abusing vulnerable people who don't have the power to do anything about the abuse. And that's what's remarkable about there finally being consequences for the goon squad in Rankin County, but this needs to be dealt with too. And the media is doing a decent job of covering this, right? This was from mainstream media. This is NBC News, but more. We need to talk about this more. We need to cover this more so that people know that this is a significant problem.
And listen, I'd love to hear from conservatives out there who are like, well, they're just, criminals. All they got to do is just comply. And there's nothing that they're doing wrong because the people that are being targeted are criminals, quote unquote. They're also targeting other cops who don't want to participate in their gang thuggery. This needs to be rooted out. It's not that the gang problem needs to be rooted out. It's that when you find someone who is involved in this behavior, this illegal, organized crime, you fire the fuck out of them. You prosecute them. You send them to prison because they have abused their station in life, the power that has been granted to them by the government to lord over other people. This is beyond a cop who doesn't use his or her turn signal. This is someone who is abusing and up to and including assassination of other people while going under the gang moniker, the Executioners.
I know, dear Lord.
Ugh.
Yeah, so we would love to know what you think about this. You can call, leave us a voicemail, 657-464-7609, or send an email to idoubitit@dollamore.com.
Let's talk, Brittany Page, about what is taking place right now in America, not about the Democrats, but about Republicans and abortion and what they are doing at every turn to turn this country. Listen, we're going back like a couple years when I critiqued the critique of people using the Handmaid's Tale as instruction about what Republicans want. People acted like that was too fantastical or whatever their critique was. But at every turn, it's exactly what Republicans are trying to do. And right now, Arizona are acting like maniacs, the Republican Party, in trying to uphold white Christian nationalism and the oppression of women related to the abortion issue.
Yeah, let's just talk about kind of the order that things happened this week. So Donald Trump had been talking about his long-awaited announcement that he was going to reveal his position on abortion.
I'm actually shocked that an announcement was made.
Well, and it's funny that he had to come out and be like, tease this announcement. Don't worry, I'm going to reveal what my position on abortion is after we figure out what's most politically expedient for me right now.
And then really didn't really come out with a definitive statement.
Right, other than stating what is already in place, which is that the states are able to determine what their own abortion bans are going to be. Then, after he made that statement, the Arizona Supreme Court came out and they upheld that this 1864 law that's on the books can stand, and it makes abortion a felony, punishable by 2 to 5 years in prison for anyone who performs an abortion or helps a woman obtain an abortion. And it was codified in 1901 and again in 1913, and it outlaws abortion from the moment of conception, although it does include an exception for the life of the mother, but we know how well that's been playing out with these states that have similar exceptions. It doesn't work. And so, this state came out and said, we're going to ban abortion based on this 1864 law before Arizona was a state, before women even had the right to vote. And obviously that's an unpopular decision. And so Republicans started panicking, including Donald Trump. And he was asked by a reporter, did Arizona go too far? And he said, yes, they went too far. But I think everyone's going to come together and bring it back to a more reasonable place, including the governor, who, by the way, is a Democrat. So he's like passing it back to the Democrats to do something about the archaic abortion ban that has been brought into place in Arizona, completely ignoring the fact that Republicans exist in Arizona.
And they control the legislature.
Right. And completely ignoring the fact that Donald Trump is the reason all this is happening because he appointed 3 Supreme Court justices that then really got in there and overturned Roe v. Wade.
And he's taking credit for the overturning of Roe v. Wade.
Right. So it's very convoluted, and we know what it is. It's transparent because they're afraid because these abortion bans are unpopular. We're seeing the widespread damage. And, the Arizona House actually blocked 2 efforts to overturn this near total ban from 1864. And when I say the Arizona House, I'm talking about Republicans, because Democrats tried to immediately do something about this so that people in Arizona are not going to be forced into a terrible situation where they're forced to carry a pregnancy in a situation that they don't want to. And Republicans instead said no.
And Arizona Republicans are blocking efforts to repeal the state's near-total ban on abortion access. Lawmakers on both sides had called for the repeal after the state Supreme Court affirmed the Civil War-era law. But now some state Republicans are reversing course. Senior congressional correspondent Rachel Scott has the latest from Arizona.
The intense political fight playing out in Arizona after the state Supreme Court's decision to reinstate a 160-year-old law banning abortions in all but one circumstance for the life of the mother.
Should the 1864 ban on abortion remain the law,
in Arizona, people will die.
One day after the ruling, there was bipartisan outrage, with state lawmakers on both sides pushing to repeal the law. But when Democrats in the state house tried to move forward with the vote, Republicans blocked it.
There is no reason to rush on this very important topic.
It was chaos, and all because our Republican majority refuses to do what they said they would do.
Donald Trump appointed 3 of the 6 Supreme Court justices who overturned Roe v. Wade, clearing the way for 21 states to ban or restrict access to abortion. But now Trump says Arizona went too far.
Did Arizona go too far? Yeah, they did, and that'll be straightened out. And as you know, it's all about states' rights. That'll be straightened out.
Just weeks ago, Trump was floating the idea of a national abortion ban, but now he said he would not sign one. And he said states should decide whether doctors should face punishment for performing abortions.
Do you think a doctor should be punished who perform abortions?
I'll let that be to the states. You know, everything we're doing now is states.
Abortion providers like Dr. Jill Gibson could face fines and 5 years in prison under the ban.
How can we not have justices that recognize that a law that was enacted before Arizona was a state, before women had the right to vote, should be applicable in today's society?
The Biden campaign says it's Trump that owns the suffering and chaos happening right now. And soon voters in this critical battleground state could have the final say, with abortion rights expected to be on the ballot this November.
So how scared are Republicans? How scared are they? I mean, Donald Trump, he can't land on a position. He was even asked directly by a reporter, are you pro-choice or pro-life? Because he's changed his position on abortion like 15 times. So they asked him directly, are you pro-choice or pro-life? And he responded, you know which one it is, right? He's so scared right now that he can't even come out and be direct on this issue because he knows that these abortion bans that are his doing are unpopular and are possibly going to burn him. You know who else knows? And this is a great example about how scared they are. Sean Hannity. Hannity actually had the audacity to go on his show. And this clip that I'm about to play for you is after. It takes place after what you just heard with those Arizona Republicans shutting down the attempt to repeal this archaic law. He actually has the audacity to go on his show. And I guess we'll just play it for you.
Trump opposes the law and this ruling, or you can believe Joe's make pretend Donald Trump that doesn't exist. And you know what? Arizona's governor is a Democrat. The state's attorney general is a Democrat. The state legislature is almost evenly divided. If Democrats, you want to get rid of the law, well, you have a chance right now to get rid of it. And I would advise you, get rid of it. They would rather use it as a political tool ahead of November.
The state legislature's almost evenly divided is a hell of a way to say a Republican majority.
I know.
God damn, he's not good at what he does.
In fact, so in the House in Arizona, there are 29 Democrats, 31 Republicans. So there's more Republicans. Are you hearing that?
There's a majority.
In the Senate, there are 14 Democrats and 16 Republicans. Oh, another Republican majority.
Right.
And of course, they have a Democratic governor and a Democrat AG. And thankfully, they do have a Democratic AG because the attorney general came out and said, I'm not going to bring charges against anyone. And she won her election by fewer than 300 votes.
That's integrity, for those what that is.
Right, totally. And for those of you who think that voting doesn't matter, remember that. The difference between having an attorney general in Arizona who said, I'm going to prosecute under this 1864 law because of what the Supreme Court did, and an attorney general who said, I'm not going to bring charges, was fewer than 300 votes in the state of Arizona. Yeah. So Biden is really leaning into this, though, and they just released a new campaign ad that they're running in Arizona where they are directly calling out Donald Trump.
Because of Donald Trump, millions of women lost the fundamental freedom to control their own bodies. And now, women's lives are in danger because of that. The question is, if Donald Trump gets back in power, what freedom will you lose next? Your body and your decisions belong to you, not the government, not Donald Trump. I will fight like hell to get your freedom back. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Pretty good, I think.
Yeah, good ad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
It's just an important election.
Yeah, it's so important.
It's important. And all of the cynical naysayers out there who, I've seen more and more profiles of young voters are like, well, we need to just punish the Democrats because we need to send a message to them. There's ways to send messages that don't involve putting back into power someone who wants to create a dystopian type of America. And I think we just need to get our fucking head screwed on straight here. So,
well, and that's true because Donald Trump is saying that he wouldn't sign a federal abortion ban. Never mind that you can't trust him.
Right.
But the people that he has surrounded himself with who actually want to put things in place have said that they don't need a federal abortion ban when they have the Comstock Act. And if you want to hear more about that, I did a long form video about that, including quotes that a Trump attorney has given saying specifically that he doesn't want Donald Trump to talk about the Comstock Act because he doesn't want the population to become aware of what their actual plans are. So we would love to know what you think about all of this, 657-464-7609, or you can send an email to idoubtit@dollemore.com.
It's the asshole of today.
Jesse Waters.
Jesse Waters, a Fox News host. He used to be Bill O'Reilly's man on the street interview guy.
He's like lapdog that would go out and in horribly offensive and racist ways interview Asian people like in Chinatown in New York City and shit. He's just a vile fucking troll.
And now he's the new Tucker Carlson on Fox News, and he's also on The Five. He's, one of the stars of Fox News. He went on Patrick Bet-David's podcast, who I don't really know a lot about, and so I can't really speak to that other than doesn't seem to be super educated on a lot of the political issues that he talks about. And I think this is a prime example because, so the context for this conversation, Jesse Waters, Patrick Bet-David, there's also other people who sometimes are talking in the background, so be aware of like these other voices that may pop up. They were talking about the California minimum wage. Specifically, Patrick Bet-David was reading a Wall Street Journal article that said California businesses take on Gavin Newsom over tax hikes. Governor says ballot measure would decimate funding for basic services. Backers say it is needed in the high-cost state. Basically talking about how California businesses don't like the taxes in California. They don't like the minimum wage in California.
Well,
that there's all these burdens.
California just raised the minimum wage for fast food workers to $20.
Yes.
Which I think predicated a lot of this. And I've seen screenshots out there of like the prices at In-N-Out before and after. And it's like a 3% increase in prices for like a 15 or 25% increase or something. It's way disproportionate, that price increase versus the wage increase. And it's a value proposition.
Right. It's almost no sacrifice on your part to pay a couple more cents on your burger in order to have someone have like somewhat of a livable wage in the state of California. But here's Jesse Waters, who, again, is given this massive platform on Fox News to talk about political issues, including the economy and minimum wage.
And you would hope he would do so astutely.
Yes, and you're going to hear very quickly that he has no idea how the world actually works.
Jesse, I know you love Gavin's policies. What are your thoughts about this wonderful governor?
You're very good at math, so see if you can do this in your head. You probably can. If you're making $20 an hour to work at a fast food restaurant, all right, is that six figures? Are you making?
No.
What
40 grand. 50 is just two exit and add a few zeros.
Yeah. Okay, so
$40K a year.
Okay,
full time.
$40K a year.
Yeah.
So, and then if your husband or wife is also there, you're making $100,000 as a family.
Sure.
Both working at McDonald's.
80 grand.
That is okay. That's crazy. That is crazy, because that job really doesn't require much. So it's inflating the entire, labor sector
and the Happy Meal.
And the Happy Meal.
Unhappy, very unhappy.
Which I'm very unhappy about. But I believe Gavin Newsom will be president one day.
Can't get off that topic fast enough.
Right. Well, you know what I want to talk about is not this thing that I'm completely fucking up in epic fashion right now. Well, Gavin Newsom might be president one day. Idiot.
So, of course, we know that making $20 an hour is not six figures. It's actually, they were saying it's $40,000. They're rounding. It's $41,600 a year.
And Jesse Waters thought that it was $100,000 a year.
Now, let's also talk about rental prices in California.
Yeah.
The median rent, and this is for all bedrooms in California, is $2,795.
Wow.
Almost $2,800 for rent in the state of California. So you're talking about giving someone $20 an hour. They're making $41,600 a year. That's, by the way, before taxes.
Yeah.
And what world is he living in? And think of, this is the same person who he's always attacking homeless people, saying that they have wine cellars and they're living it up, living on the street. I mean,
these are really things he says.
This conversation alone should tell you that Jesse Waters has nothing to offer you in terms of education, in terms of how the world works. This is someone who is so far removed from the experiences of everyday people that he thinks someone working at McDonald's, by the way, he called it an easy job. I would love for Jesse Waters to put in 40 hours on his feet at McDonald's, and then I want to check in with him after that week and ask him how that went. And we should give him the funds that he would make in a week and see what he could do with that. What could he do? I'm sure his dinner on any weeknight doesn't even, isn't going to be covered by that.
What I'd like, Brittany, is for you to give Jesse Waters a little bit more of a fair shake. Listen to this brilliant analysis.
So it's inflating the entire, labor sector.
It's inflating the. So can we stop with this? I mean, honestly.
Also, it is remarkable to imagine this layout here for this podcast, where it's just this weird echo chamber with all of these dipshits, none of whom really live in the real world. I mean, Patrick Bet-David, I just did a video it's going to post on YouTube about him talking about, I would be okay with the 14-year-old voting if they pay $10,000 in tax. Like, you have to earn the right to vote under the Constitution they're just fundamentally bereft of any understanding of how things work in America, what our foundational principles are, how the Constitution works, what a right is versus what a privilege is. It's just fucking fantasy land, and they've been lucky like us, to fallen backwards to a situation where they have an audience.
Well, and that comes up too because Patrick Bet-David actually had the audacity to say to Jesse Waters that he started from the bottom. And
Jesse Waters started from the bottom?
Yeah. And now he's the Tucker Carlson of Fox News, right? And so I think he's saying like he started from the bottom, meaning that he was a production assistant. And Patrick Bet-David said, well, that's the story of all these great capitalistic companies like McDonald's. You always hear that they started as the burger flipper and then they became an owner. Yeah, okay. And so Jesse Waters, I'm just reading briefly about his history here on Wikipedia. His father, it looks like, was he's the son of Stephen Waters, a teacher and child psychologist. Son of Stephen Waters, a teacher and child psychologist. Sorry, I'm trying to do it right now. Ann Purvis, this is written terribly. Daughter of Morton Bailey Jr., a publisher of Better Homes and Gardens magazine.
Right, he comes from money.
His maternal great-grandfather was Morton Bailey, publisher of the Saturday Evening Post. His maternal great-great-grandfather was the politician Morton S. Bailey. Waters' paternal grandfather was a cardiologist at the Veteran Administration Hospital in Newington, Connecticut.
So what you're painting a picture here is of a young man, Jesse Waters, who did the hard work, the gritty work of pulling himself up by his bootstraps, Brittany Page, and rising to the heights of anchor on the Fox News.
Yeah, I mean, my mom told me when I was a teenager she couldn't buy my shampoo anymore, and it was just Suave Mountain Berry. Like, it was 89 cents. So,
I mean, I'm not laughing about that because that's fucking tragic. But come on, can we stop with this myth of meritocracy bullshit?
Yeah, exactly. And there was no mention of luck. It's, you started from the bottom. No, he didn't. No, he did not. And, it's just such disrespect of people that are actually working hard every day.
You mean the six-figure salary earners who work at McDonald's? Those people?
Yeah, I mean, it's so... God, it's so insulting of people that work hard. And even for people who like Jesse Waters and who follow him and act like he's this person who has this stranglehold on how the world works. He doesn't get it. He doesn't give a shit about you. And I just hope that at some point we can all understand that.
We'd love to know what you think. 657-464-7609. And of course, you can email a voice memo from your smartphone to idoubtit@dollemore.com. If you would like to help support this work, help make this work possible, help us create this work, $2 a month. Go to patreon.com/idoubtitpodcast. It's a great way to help support this work. You get an ad-free version of the show. You get bonus Patreon-only content that we may or may not release to the entire audience. Maybe we should do a poll on Patreon and let the patrons decide.
They get to decide the gatekeeping or not.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyway, we love you guys. We appreciate you very much. Thanks for joining us today. We will see you next time on episode 912. I'm Jesse Dollemore. This right here is Brittany Page. And this has been I Doubt It.
Get ready to move the conversation forward. This ain't your granddad's news and comment show. This is I Doubt It Podcast with Brittany Page and Jesse Dollemore.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us. Episode 914 of I Doubt It Podcast. I'm your host, Jesse Dollemore, joined today by the lovely, the talented, and the scholarly Brittany Page, everybody.
Well, we had a few requests about what we should cover today.
That's not unusual.
That's not unusual, but the requests about what we should talk about is unusual because we received another death threat.
Mm-hmm.
And I say another because this has happened before. And it is kind of a scary and unfortunate reality of being a person that is like online. And we hear it a lot from the listeners, actually. They're like, don't read my name with this email.
Yeah.
Like they don't even want to have their name associated. They don't want to, they want to be anonymous. And I totally understand that.
Well, it's the other reason that we don't give full names, even when we read Patreon.
Right.
Even if you write your full name.
Right.
We just usually give the last initial.
Right.
That's
and
another element of protecting. So people have to go through this shit that we have to go through.
Yeah.
Unfortunately have to go through.
Right. And so we got another death threat and we reported it. We're not going to give an update about what has transpired since making that initial report.
Indicating there are updates, but we're going to wait until we have more of a conclusion before we make updates.
Right. And we don't want to interfere with any investigations that may be happening. So, hang on for that. I know people are really wanting an update, but just kind of hang on for that. So we're going to play the threats that we received. We want to give kind of a warning for people that may not want to hear it because it is violent and vulgar. So I think we should play both of them in rapid succession. And if you don't want to hear these, what do they need to skip? Like 40 seconds ahead? 40 seconds about?
Yeah, about a minute.
Okay, skip about a minute ahead, and then you will not hear them. But these are the death threats that we received last week.
You fucking piece of shit. You're fucking dead. You and your family, motherfucker. You're fucking dead.
That's number one. Here's number two.
Your wife is an ugly fucking cunt. We're gonna rape that fucking ugly bitch and kill her, you cocksucker.
So less than a minute, but
yeah.
So that was it. Left in at 11:19 and 11:23 on April 29th.
Interesting way to start the day.
Yeah.
So what's most concerning, and Jesse, I know you did a video about this, and I guess I haven't really had a chance to talk about my reaction to it. But I was most disturbed by the sound of what appears to be a child in the background of that second voicemail. That was very striking to me. I sent it to several of my friends trying to get confirmation of whether or not they agreed that seemed to be a child that you could hear in the background. And I think that's the most striking and concerning thing for me. And
the FBI seems to agree.
And so, yeah, that's definitely a concerning element. So, yeah, it's just a weird thing that you have to endure, I guess. And I wish it were different. And I know I hear this a lot from people that are online is like just they get death threats. It's like a thing that they have come to expect of being a political commentator online. And I think it suggests something really toxic and poisonous about our society and the current discourse, that people feel like this is a legitimate way to air frustration or just comport yourself. I wish that it were not the case, but I'm hoping that, people who do this start to receive consequences, and that will hopefully get people to understand that this actually isn't an acceptable response to disagreement or anger or however you're choosing to deal with your emotional state, I guess.
People may not remember, but there was once a time in American politics where this type of behavior, these types of calls, these types of threats, these types of actions were universally condemned by everybody, both parties. It's not that way on the Republican side, but I'll get to that in a second. This is one of those deals where when I hear a voicemail that has been sent, a threat by some unhinged idiot, some violent jerk off online, sent to like Lauren Boebert or name somebody on the other side, I am repulsed. I am disgusted. I am very bothered. And I always think to myself, they're setting back the cause. They're not helping by doing this. They're harming. And I don't get, in fact, I've seen comments on the YouTube video about this where people justify this. Well, maybe you shouldn't call names. Maybe you shouldn't say what you say about Donald Trump, as though there's any justification to, and I'm not even talking about the name calling you an ugly fucking cunt and me a cocksucker or whatever. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the threats of violence and rape and death and murder. What the fuck is going on that this is acceptable by a wide swath of the American public in the Republican Party?
Yeah. And I guess in an attempt to inject some levity into the situation, I have to say that it's kind of funny, the people that have been like, Brittany, you're very beautiful. You're very beautiful. Don't worry about that. What's being said.
Right. Like
they
need to...
We can't confirm on the other parts because we don't know you personally, but we can see that you are pretty, okay? But we also want to say that we've gotten a lot of supportive comments and a lot of supportive messages from people that have been just so kind. And like several different Patreon supporters have sent in messages. Kristen, Will, Austin sent in a very, very kind voice memo that was emotional to listen to, and it felt a bit self-indulgent to play it on the show because it was very kind and talked about, the difference that you and I have made in his life and in other people's lives. And it was really, really nice. And we've just gotten so many messages that we really appreciate. So, thank you to everyone who has reached out and checked on us and offered to be our personal security or
that multiple people have done that.
We definitely appreciate that. And Jesse, I was really taking hits on that Monday because it wasn't just the death threat. It wasn't just the rape threat. But we also got a message of someone who said that subject line was, please separate your show from Whitney.
Yeah.
And we're not going to read it, but they basically want me off the show. And I was like,
they
wow.
care so little about who you are that they don't even know your name is Brittany.
They wrote Brittany next time. They mentioned me, but at first in the subject line, it was Whitney. And I'm like, wow, I cannot win today. That was my Monday. And I was like, I cannot win today.
I also love the rampant, I don't know why you don't want to read it, but the rampant internalized misogyny from this lady who just bitches about your looks. I don't like her face. I don't like her look or the sound of her voice. It's the same thing you hear from dudes like, she's just shrill, blah.
Well, people have, when you started your John Adams podcast with Ian, everyone should go check that out. New episode just dropped. Look at that, little plug for you. People were concerned that your Dollemore Daily was changing, or even that this I Doubt It podcast was changing. And I think because people aren't, following you as closely as some other people that send us death and rape threats, that they don't understand like the different shows that you have. And so, when she's saying, please separate your show from Whitney, this is a separate show from the Dollemore Daily. And it's a separate show from the John Adams podcast.
Yeah.
And we've been doing this show for 10 years.
Longer than anything else, this is what we've done.
Yeah, so...
That's what's interesting about this is someone to be such a super fan that they just can't stand you. They love me, but they just can't stand you. There would be no Dollemore Daily without I Doubt It podcast. Like, that evolution wouldn't have been made at all.
Yeah.
So they're not listening because of your voice. Thanks a lot, Brittany, to hear, but that is the case.
Yes. So we want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of today's episode, Uplift Standing Desk.
Finding the right materials and tech to fit your working environment can be tough. With our podcast spaces, we went through a bunch of different desks and chairs while searching for a flexible setup that worked best for us. That setup, our Uplift Standing Desk.
As the New York Times Wirecutter's standing desk pick for 5 years running, Uplift Desk doesn't just aim to improve your work, but your health as well. Studies show that using a standing desk can heighten your mood and focus, and moving more throughout the day lowers your risk of disease.
We absolutely love our Uplift Desk because we can go from sitting to standing height with one press of a button while prepping for and shooting the show. It's also super stable and comes with cable management accessories to help conceal all those wires. Customize your Uplift Desk with over 100 desktop styles and hundreds of accessories. You'll get 4 free when you buy a desk.
Elevate your work and your health. Go to upliftdesk.com/IDoubtIt to get 5% off your first purchase when you use code IDoubtIt at checkout. Uplift Desk has 6,000 5-star Google reviews and counting, so we're not the only people singing their praises. And with a 15-year warranty, free shipping, free returns with free return shipping, you cannot lose if you try them out. Uplift your health and productivity.
Just head to upliftdesk.com/IDoubtIt or click the link in the description to score 5% off of your order when you use code IDoubtIt at checkout. Work better, live healthier with Uplift Desk. So moving on to some listener communication. If you'd like to call and communicate with the show, the number is 657-464-7609. And of course, you can always email a voice memo or a regular old-fashioned email to IDoubtIt@dollemore.com.
All right. We are going to read a message from a Patreon supporter who sent us a very nice message. This is from Calvin. I've never had a shout out on a podcast before. That was cool. Happy to support y'all. I love the dynamic between the both of you, and it's refreshing that neither of you shy away from showing emotion.
See, a fan of Whitney.
Especially
Calvin loves him some Whitney.
Especially Jesse. We need more men to understand that having and expressing heartfelt emotions does not make them any less of a man. Y'all are amazing. Keep up the fantastic work. Very nice, Calvin.
Very nice.
Yes, thank you for that. We do
another shout out.
We do cry a lot. That is true.
I am a crier. Unabashedly so.
Especially on our Patreon bonus episodes.
That is right.
Sometimes we cannot make it through it without crying. Okay, thank you again to Calvin. This is a message from a longtime listener, longtime supporter of the show, Henry. Hey, Brittany P. and Jesse D. Long time no talk, and feel free to use my name if you decide to air this. Probably too long, don't read. I don't know why I struggled with
TLDR?
the acronym. Yeah. For you, LOL. These last 6 months have been very difficult. Cycles of pain, the daily reminder of humanity's inhumanity. It really is all too much. Last year, a wonderful woman I fell in love with was forced to move out of Texas because her 2 beautiful girls happened to be trans and they lost their healthcare providers. We are truly in dystopian times. That said, I'm going to hold my nose and vote for Biden in November. He has been a real progressive president as far as labor. but he is ideologically opposed to health care for all and countless other progressive policies. The truth of the matter is that we have to vote for the enemy that we want to fight again in America. Here is my question for you both. Also, if the far more reasonable host please answers first. I guess Henry will let us decide who that is. Do you see the difference in the left/liberal desire to act against the establishment when a Democrat is in power versus a Republican? I have no evidence outside of anecdotal experiences, but feel it in my bones that Israel would have nowhere near the support on the left if Trump was in power. It feels that this genocide would have had so much more pushback if Trump was the one aiding and abetting it. But because it is old Uncle Joe, they assume he is doing the right thing. Right now, I suffer from the trauma of the bombs dropped on the heads of children. When I sleep, I hear them. I am not the only one that does. But my liberal friends sleep like babies, and they don't understand why I care about the Palestinian cause. We are all more connected as humans than we realize, and these monsters in the IDF and their leadership will pay an inevitable cycle of violence that they are building from the ground up. Literally, mass graves are the foundation of their humanity. Last thing is an answer to Brittany P's question about what I'm going to do about door knocking for Biden in 2024. I am not doing one fucking thing for this guy. I am not talking to anyone about how good of a guy he is. I am not going to convince my Muslim friends how even though America funded the slaughter of their family and the erasure of their culture, they need to, quote, get over themselves, parenthetically Hillary Clinton, and go for Joe. I am an atheist and a humanist, and I can do the math and will vote for the enemy that I want to fight against, but I will not give away my ethical structure that makes me who I am. The choice to lose is Joe's, not ours. There is no grassroots base that is going to do the work needed to get out the vote for him, and you know this by looking at the polls and actions of the under 30 and the scholars' protests. I love you guys so much. Brittany is the best part. Henry.
Love the show. Brittany's the best part. Bye.
So the more reasonable one, Jesse, go ahead.
Right.
So the basic question is, if Donald Trump were the president right now, as the war was going on, would there be as much support for his actions? I'm assuming is what the question is. And I don't know. I mean, I think probably there would be an element to what Henry is saying here. I think that it's true that there would be more people giving pushback to Donald Trump. Although, Jesse, you brought up an interesting point the past couple of days. This has been something that you've been kind of angry about, and you've brought it up several times, which is that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is a far-right person. He's a far-right candidate. He's leading a far-right government. And yet, and you also say he's a Trump supporter. And
he's
yet,
a Trump-like character, too.
Right. And,
corrupt, criminal.
And yet, we're seeing widespread support, it seems, for the Israeli government's actions against Gaza and the Palestinian people. So it is kind of a confusing situation where it's hard to understand what the motivations of people are and how things might be different if instead of President Biden, we had a President Trump.
Yeah, I'm buoyed by, I don't know what kind of media you consume, Henry. Obviously some good stuff since you still listen to the show after all these years. But I don't see a ton of, other than institutional support for Israel and the giving of billions of dollars to a developed nation that doesn't need the money. Other than that, like just grassroots wise, what I see is overwhelming support for the Palestinian people and against the wholesale slaughter and genocide of women, children, and innocent civilians, unarmed combatants, or civilians not combatants. So I certainly do think that if it was a Donald Trump administration and we were navigating these same waters and putting together multi-billion-dollar aid packages, liberals would be outraged by what was taking place because it would be Donald Trump and a Donald Trump clone acting in concert with one another to eradicate the Palestinian people. But because it's Joe Biden, a guy who has said with his mouth on camera that he's a Zionist, people just go along with that and don't levy the justifiable criticism against a monster like Bibi Netanyahu. So it's unfortunate, but I don't think people think clearly enough about these issues. When we talk about genocide and 40,000 plus people killed and upwards of 20,000 children killed, or whatever that number is, people, the people who are supporting ignore the death toll and the carnage and the decimation of Gaza and just say, well, what about Hamas? Hamas is bad. Hamas is a terrorist organization. I have no sympathy or empathy for them. I hope they fucking die. Hamas. Palestinians do, I'm preaching to the choir here, but Palestinians aren't Hamas. Certainly some Palestinians are Hamas, but the large portion of the Palestinian people are like 18 and below. They're very young, didn't participate in the election in 2006 to make Hamas the political ruling mechanism within Gaza. So anyway, like I said, preaching to the choir, it is disheartening, but I would say look at the good things that are happening and the groundswell of support, not the media narrative. And I think the tide is turning, and I think you would agree with that based on some of the latest statements that we've heard from the State Department, from leaders at the CIA, from the administration, that they are starting to put conditions on, starting to speak a little bit more directly to Israel and the fascist government in that country.
Yeah, and I do hear what Henry's saying, because I think you would have these certain examples of like prominent voices that consider themselves to be on the left, but not necessarily leftists, that are still more sympathetic to Israel than they are Palestinians. But there does seem to be a changing tide when you have these student protesters leading these campus protests across the country. And although they are sending the police in to kick in these kids' skulls, there has been a lot of support for these kids on the ground. And sure, there's been a lot of pushback against the kids and people trying to focus on that they broke into buildings and, oh, look at this. It's been a strange experience, because I did a video about the protests, and specifically Megyn Kelly calling them ugly and homely or whatever. And I referenced, actual things that have been happening in Gaza, including the number of kids that are losing their limbs. And it was a strange experience to read through some of the comments and have people not comment on that aspect of it at all. To your point, Jesse, about the horrors that are happening in Gaza, and instead say, well, these student protesters broke into buildings.
Yeah.
And it's like, where are your priorities? It's like confusing.
Well, I think people, especially related to protests, they're not ahead of the game. They don't look back at history and understand protests work. They do move the needle. They change people's minds. And civil disobedience by way of protesting is effective. When people watch the cops, these jackbooted fascist thugs, harming peaceful young adults protesting and utilizing their First Amendment rights to redress their government, people are outraged by that. Even people who are sympathetic to the cause of what has turned into a genocide on the part of Israel, they see that and they go, this is wrong.
Right.
So there have been some bright spots, I think. I think you just have to, unfortunately, look a little hard to recognize them.
Right. So thank you for that email, Henry. We appreciate it. We are going to read another email here before we move on to the news of the day. And to put this in context before we read it, we've been covering the latest restrictions on abortions, and we had talked about the Arizona abortion ban from 1864 that the Supreme Court had put into place or upheld, and that has been repealed. The Arizona governor signed a repeal of the state's near total abortion ban, which is great news. Democratic lawmakers had to band together to get it through the Republican-controlled legislature there. And it's still unfortunate because, according to reporting from NBC, Even after Hobbs' signature, the road ahead on how and what abortion restrictions will be enforced in Arizona remains complicated. The ban is still bound to go into effect for a period of time due to unique aspects of Arizona law. Under the Arizona Constitution, a fully enacted repeal of a law doesn't go into effect until 90 days after a legislative session concludes, unless it was passed by a supermajority in both legislative chambers. Last year's session ended on July 31st, so if the current session were to end at a similar time, the repeal would not fully execute until late October or early November. But Arizona doesn't have a fixed legislative calendar, meaning Republicans could also keep the session open to further delay the repeal's implementation. So that means that, unfortunately, the abortion restrictions will still be in place for a period of time, even though this was repealed. Now, on that note, we did get a great email here that I'm going to read related to all of this, but please note that this email came through before the announcement of the repeal was successful. Hi, Jesse and Brittany. I have been listening to your podcast for 3 years now and have never felt compelled to write, but today's Arizona Supreme Court ruling has greatly disturbed me as this hits on a personal experience. I have lived in Arizona since 2019 when abortion was federally protected. So even though I was aware that I was moving from a blue state to a red state, worry about my reproductive rights wasn't a concern. When Dobbs overturned Roe v. Wade, the 15-week ban seemed restrictive, but not as extreme as Texas, so still not a problem. Until my husband and I started trying for a child in March of 2023. Because I am high risk, we went to a preconception counseling at a high-risk OB and thought we were set for a safe pregnancy. I received, in June of 2023, a letter stating that the high-risk OB's practice was closing. Not a big deal since I wasn't pregnant, and the OB had told me that it would take us over a year to conceive. Wrong. 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant, and while I was elated, I was also terrified. It will be okay, just find someone else. Well, it was easier said than done. I spent hours on the phone trying to find a high-risk doctor that would, 1, take my insurance, 2, deliver in a decent hospital, and 3, have an appointment before I was 15 weeks pregnant. Having the combination of all 3 of these elements was nearly impossible to find. I ended up having to travel over 45 minutes, roughly 40 miles, to get an appointment with a doctor who had rights at the hospital that I wanted to deliver at to get an appointment at 11 weeks. While we ended up having a great experience and loved the doctors we worked with, the constant reminder that if something went wrong, I would have to travel out of state makes me concerned about other women. While I was fortunate to be able to take time off work to travel to get the care I needed, many are not. There were so many things that could have gone wrong with my pregnancy, and I was one of the lucky ones, but not all women are so lucky. My husband and I have now decided that we will not be having any more children after this. While I sit across from my daughter sleeping while writing this and being so happy that I had her, I just can't do it again with this law in place. I am getting an IUD at the end of the week, and we are considering having my husband get a vasectomy just to be safe. I hate to see what this does to not only women's reproductive health care, but any type of health care for women in this state. I also fear for the health care that will be available for my daughter in the future. I am so disappointed that in the state where I found my husband, daughter, and discovered my authentic self isn't going to be the place where I want my daughter to have a life and family of her own. This is not the way to motivate people to have more children. It's the opposite of that and just instills fear. Thank you for your messaging and constant references to social injustices in our world. Keep doing what you do because people are listening, even the haters. While Brittany is the best part, Jesse does have his moments.
Love the show. Brittany's the best part. Bye.
Wishing you the best, CK.
At least it's plural, moments, not moment.
Yes,
you know?
Yes. Looking on the bright side.
Listen, it is a dystopian type of situation in states all across the country, in Arizona included. And it does not matter that there is a Democrat governor and Katie Hobbs there. Republicans control the legislature. And this is why elections matter more than ever. This is why people who will protest and either not vote for Joe Biden or inexplicably vote for a Donald Trump to protest against Joe Biden are cutting off their nose to spite their face. Because this is what we're going to end up with a Donald Trump in office at a federal level again. We're going to have a national ban. He may not say that directly now, and he's dancing around and playing cute on the issue, but that is what they're gunning for. He is going to be led around by the nose by the Heritage Foundation, who are the authors and chief designers of Project 2025, and it is without doubt not hyperbole to say that's their agenda.
I'm glad that you brought that up, Jesse, because Donald Trump gave an interview to Time Magazine this past week, and I just want to briefly talk about that since you brought it up, because he's kind of teasing his announcement on what his position is going to be on abortion pills. And he was doing this with what abortion restriction he was going to support in the first place. He kept teasing this announcement on what his position was going to be, like he's on a game show or something, instead of stating what a policy is that's going to materially impact people's lives.
I mean, everything's a fucking reality show with this goober, even though it's literally reality for people's lives.
Right. And so Time Magazine reporter asked, do you think women should be able to get the abortion pill mifepristone? And Trump said, well, I have an opinion on that, but I'm not going to explain. I'm not going to say it yet, but I have pretty strong views on that, and I'll be releasing it probably over the next week. And they said, well, this is a big question, Mr. President, because your allies have called for enforcement of the Comstock Act, which prohibits the mailing of drugs used for abortions by mail. The Biden Department of Justice has not enforced it. Would your Department of Justice enforce it? Trump, I will be making a statement on that over the next 14 days. Time Magazine, you will? Trump, yeah, I have a big statement on that. I feel very strongly about it. I actually think it's a very important issue.
It is similar to Trump. This is Trump recognizing his limitations. Remember when Tommy Tuberville was asked about IVF?
Yes.
And he's like, listen, that's very serious. We need to, very serious issue. We just want people to have babies, And then the reporter's like, well, yeah, that's what IVF is. Yeah, again, very serious. We just need to take it very seriously. Donald Trump recognizes that he is absolutely just a dumb fuck. So he just says, oh, big announcement, huge. It's going to be big. The biggest you've ever seen, the likes of which no one's ever seen my announcement. He gets that he's a moron and he doesn't want to step on his dick. So he just says, we're going to be having something said. It's very important. So important, I have to leave a cliffhanger here for you.
Well, and frankly, it doesn't matter what he says because we know what the plan is.
That's
and we
right.
should always assume that he's going to say whatever he needs to say in order to try to convince the largest number of people that he's not as radical as he actually is. But we know he's radical. So that's what we need to remember. So let's take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters before we get into the meat of the show. We want to give a shout out to our new Patreon supporters, Daniel D. Terrence M. Virginia. Sharon S. Rosalind S. Wendy H. Nancy MLC. Bev M. Barry J. Nancy Z. Supporter.
Thank you so much, supporter.
That's someone who's like, I want to be anonymous. I don't even want my first name on here. Pete. Mike W. Jan T. Nick H. Priscilla M. And Steven. And then we want to give a special shout out to our Patreon supporters who increased their pledge, and that would be Austin F.
We love you.
And Will E. Thank you so very much for your support. We could not do it without you. Remember, the main benefit of Patreon is that you get access to an ad-free version of the show. You can paste the RSS link that you are given within Patreon and put it into whatever podcatcher you use to listen to the show. So Spotify, whatever else exists, I don't know. And you can also check out our bonus episodes that we put up. And we also send out an end-of-year gift every year on Patreon. We still have some of those stickers left over, actually, that, yes, I am still sending out to people. So if you're getting your welcome stickers, you're seeing that you're getting the end-of-year gift from last year, because I'm going to keep sending the stickers out while we have them. Why not?
Yes.
So thank you again for your support. We really appreciate it, especially in the midst of weeks like the one that we had last week.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thanks for not wanting us dead or raped. We'd love to hear from you. 657-464-7609. Of course, you can email a voice memo from your smartphone to idoubt@dollemore.com.
Dollemocracy. Facing down pessimistic politics with realistic optimism.
So there's a lot of moving parts right now. There's a lot of kind of continuous breaking news because Hamas has said in a statement that they have agreed to a ceasefire proposal. An Israeli official has told NBC News that the proposal that Hamas has agreed to is not the framework that was agreed upon with mediators. So there's a lot of back and forth going on right now. And inevitably, by the time that you listen to this or that you're watching this, there is likely going to be more developments related to the ceasefire.
Or things could change altogether related to what we say because it's
Right.
so in flux right now.
Right. So just keep that in mind with everything that we're about to cover. But as it stands now, today, the Israeli military instructed about 100,000 people to evacuate from East Rafah. And remember, this is something that the world and the United States has been saying do not do to Israel. They're saying do not go forward into Rafah because this is already a humanitarian catastrophe. And now it is looking like the Israeli military is preparing to disregard all of that and proceed into Rafah.
Well, the spokesperson for the Israeli Defense Forces at a briefing confirmed that there is an ongoing evacuation of about 100,000 people from eastern Rafah. Now, he didn't say how long this is going to take, but he said that this is not a widespread evacuation, but it only affects the eastern part of the town. It also confirmed, the IDF also confirmed that they are informing residents, including dropping flyers, encouraging them to move to what they say is an extended humanitarian area, in particular to Al-Mawasi, which is a town on Gaza's coastline, officially to allow them to have more access to humanitarian aid. But the fear is that this is in preparation for the much announced and anticipated ground military invasion or operation by Israel into Rafah. Now, this has been discouraged several times continuously by humanitarian organizations and allies of Israel, including the United States, for fear that this operation could lead to a humanitarian catastrophe because there are more than 1 million Palestinians, many of whom had to flee other parts of Gaza because of the war. They are finding shelter in Rafah. Now, as you mentioned, the CIA has confirmed that Director William Burns will travel to Israel today to try to, in what it looks like a last-ditch diplomatic attempt to get Israel and Hamas to agree on a ceasefire and hostage release deal before tanks roll into Rafah.
And so this is obviously very disturbing because you have over 1 million people that have been pushed into Rafah that have nowhere to go, that are experiencing starvation, that need medical care, that need, all kinds of things that they currently don't have. And I know it's going to seem a little strange that we're going to play this clip next.
Well, let me say before we move on to that clip, the desperation of the situation on the ground in Palestine, in Gaza, is it cannot be overstated. It is rubble. There is no infrastructure. So the manner with which they have to flee, they have to retreat away from the new bombing zone, the new leveling of already leveled buildings, where it's on foot. There is no mass exodus by way of vehicle, because it is just decimation. It is a otherworldly dystopian existence on the ground there. So the expectation of Israel to just scatter leaflets, here you go, get out, because we're going to do it. It's just another heartless, genocidal act on the part of the Netanyahu government. Just gross.
Because there is nowhere for them to go. And we're going to get into whether or not people on the ground even believe that they can be safe if they do move in a little bit. But first, the the clip that we're going to play is of Cindy McCain. And yeah, it's that Cindy McCain. But Cindy McCain is the executive director of the World Food Program. And she has been very outspoken about the war in Gaza and about the damage that has been caused to the Palestinian people. And she is warning that there is full-blown famine already on the ground. And she sat down with Kristen Welker from Meet the Press to talk about this famine and what the implications are going to be, long-term consequences for people that are experiencing the famine.
Whenever you have conflict like this and emotions rage high and things happen in a war, famine happens. And so what I can explain to you is that there is famine, full-blown famine in the north, and it's moving its way south. And so with what we're asking for and what we continually ask for is a ceasefire and the ability to have unfettered access to get in, safe and unfettered access to get into the into Gaza, various ports and various gate crossings. But it hasn't always worked that way. It's been a very difficult run, and I'm so proud of our people on the ground there because it's dangerous, and they continue to deliver, even on the dark days when we're looted or we're run back in various directions, we still continue to deliver. But we need more. We can't get in at scale right now, and scale is most important. The only way that we're going to be able to help fetter the famine and keep the famine at bay at all is to get in at scale. You can't, and it's not just food, it's also sanitation, it's water, it's medicine, and it's still very difficult to get in.
I just want to be very clear because what you're saying is significant, and I believe it's the first time we've heard it. You're saying there is full-blown famine in northern Gaza.
I am. Yes, I am.
What does that mean for the people who live there, for the children who live there, and how quickly is it moving south?
Well, as far as, I'll speak to the children. The adults, we know, they waste away, but children wasting is something different because they're growing, they're kids at various ages, et cetera. And without proper nutrition, their brains aren't going to function correctly. Their bodies are not going to develop properly. Their bones aren't going to be solid as they should be, and to offer a better life for these people. So that's why it's so urgent that we get in, not just for the children, but also for the adults. And again, we have to get in at scale, and we have to make sure that the world understands what's at stake here. There's generations of children that are not going to have a better life, even if we can end this war, because of the famine.
Now, there's a couple of different elements here. One is talking about how difficult it is to get in. And that's a two-pronged deal. Not only are humanitarian trucks and movement being protested and blocked by civilians, Israelis, who don't want any humanitarian aid to feed children. Not only is that happening, but then when humanitarian aid does get through, and humanitarians like World Central Kitchen, led by Jose Andres, when they go in to feed desperate and starving people, they are murdered by the Israeli military, which just happened a month or so ago.
Right. Even when they had coordinated their movements in advance and were in communication with the IDF. And, Jose Andres had taken some time to process the loss of the World Central Kitchen members that were killed. And he, at first said that World Central Kitchen would be withdrawing from Gaza, would be withdrawing their operations from Gaza. But he also announced last week that they would be returning to Gaza because the need is so great. And I thought that was a really powerful move. But in his, I think it was a Washington Post op-ed that he wrote, he said that he wants Israel to guarantee humanitarian aid groups safety, and that they're not. And this is what Cindy McCain is talking about, that they are not allowing aid to get in.
Yeah, even Cindy McCain is talking about this.
Right. And according to reporting today from Barak Ravid of Axios, a U.S. official told him that President Biden had asked Netanyahu that Israel reopen immediately the Kerem Shalom crossing between Israel and Gaza that was shut down on Sunday. And, this is something that's frustrating, I think, for a lot of people, is that Biden is asking for that. And there's no leverage here.
There's no conditions on the billions and billions and billions and billions, I can keep going, and billions of dollars that we have given to support the genocide of the Palestinian people.
And we also have a clip here from reporter Hani Mohamed reporting that people on the ground, Palestinians on the ground, who received these pamphlets falling from the sky telling them to move into a secure zone as Israel is advancing into Rafah, that they simply don't trust this because of the numerous instances now where Israel has told people to move into quote unquote safe zones only to then be bombed in those quote unquote safe zones.
We could see and we could tell how worried people, how concerned they are. There's a state of panic. People who have already lost family members that they were told to move to evacuation zones are recalling these times when they were ordered sharply to move to certain designated areas as safe zone, only to get killed and bombed and killed in those areas, whether here in Rafah city or the central area or in the city of Khan Yunis. There is a huge level of mistrust now in the Israeli narrative in terms of evacuation zones, and what people are reacting this is you can't create a safe zone in a war zone. The entire Gaza Strip is being relentlessly bombed, whether it's here in overcrowded Rafah city all these past months, and despite the calls for the ground invasion, which seen by and perceived by many people as a distraction, because at the same time the Israeli military was extremely bombing Rafah city to the point where the destruction is quite visible in all the roads across this overcrowded city. There are rubbles that are filling the roads everywhere. Destroyed homes are everywhere. So Rafah hasn't been safe at all within the past 7 months and since the initial weeks of this genocidal war. So that's where people are not buying this new narrative of evacuation zone, because there isn't any evacuation zone at all. And the bombing included public facilities, honorable facilities, hospitals, and we've seen how hospitals were stormed.
So all of this is happening, by the way, as the International Criminal Court at The Hague is weighing whether they are going to issue arrest warrants for top Israeli officials, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And the Mehdi Hassan's new news outlet, Zateo, recently got a hold of this letter that is signed by several Republican senators. Basically,
it's an unserious group of fucking people, man.
Yeah, it's Tom Cotton, Mitch McConnell, Marsha Blackburn, we get it, Ted Cruz, and
Katie Britt.
Oh, God.
I mean, come on.
Okay. Tim Scott, Marco Rubio, VPs.
Ted Cruz, yeah.
Yeah, the possible VPs. So,
desperate to be VPs.
Yes, this letter is basically threatening the International Criminal Court, threatening them to not take action, threatening them to not move forward on issuing arrest warrants.
There's no other way to categorize it as a threat. The last 3 words or 4 words are, "You have been warned."
Right.
Let me just read this last paragraph. There's like 7 paragraphs. Let me read this. Again, from the most unserious United States senators imaginable, the United States will not tolerate politicized attacks by the International Criminal Court on our allies. Target Israel, and we will target you. If you move forward with the measures indicated in the report, we will move to end all American support for the ICC, sanction your employees and associates, and bar you and your families from the United States. You have been warned. Unserious. This is what's been bothering me lately so much, is that we're alone on an island supporting Israel in this. The rest of the world is outraged. There is shared moral condemnation of what's taking place, and we're alone. Virtually alone, giving billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars to Israel to completely decimate an already decimated population. It is disgusting. And they're using language, notice, that they use surrounding Donald Trump, and I guess this will be our segue out of this, of the politicization of a prosecution of Bibi Netanyahu. It's not politicized. It's defending a defenseless population against a fucking act of genocide, you ghouls.
Right. So we'd love to know what you think about this. You can call, leave a voicemail, 657-464-7609, or you can send an email to idoubtit@dollemore.com. As you referenced there, Jesse, there is some additional Trump news. Not only is he back in court with his trial in New York, but he also had a fundraiser, I guess, over the weekend at Mar-a-Lago where he made some very concerning comments. So this is going to be just kind of an overview of the latest Trump things, and then we're going to get a little bit deeper into these concerning comments that he made over the weekend.
Former President Trump heading back to court this morning following Friday's emotional testimony from one of Mr. Trump's former top aides, Hope Hicks.
We want hope.
Hicks, appearing under a subpoena, admitted she was nervous, later tearing up and taking a break to compose herself. Hicks also discussing the infamous Access Hollywood tape. Prosecutors say its release before the 2016 election helped propel the hush money scheme. Though Hicks said she was not engaged in negotiations, she testified Mr. Trump was, in fact, aware of the payments. The former president has denied allegations of affairs and pleaded not guilty. Mr. Trump Sunday making a stop at Miami's Formula One race with his own race for the White House in the spotlight. During a private meeting with GOP donors at his Mar-a-Lago estate Saturday, Mr. Trump comparing President Biden's administration to the Nazi secret police. According to audio obtained by NBC News, Mr. Trump accused Biden officials of running a Gestapo administration while venting about his legal troubles. The White House, in a statement, says the former president is echoing the appalling rhetoric of fascists. At that Mar-a-Lago retreat, a number of potential top VP contenders, including Senator Tim Scott, who voted to certify the 2020 election, but now repeatedly dodging when asked on Meet the Press whether he'd accept the results of the next election.
Is it just yes or no? Will you accept the election results of 2024?
I look forward to President Trump being the 47th president. Kristen, you could ask him multiple times.
Senator, just a yes or no answer.
So the American people will make the decision.
But I don't hear you committing
for President Trump. That's clear.
Now, it wasn't just Senator Scott making that trek to Mar-a-Lago. Some other potential vice presidential candidates included Senator Marco Rubio, Senator J.D. Vance, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik as well. But on the timing of it all, Mr. Trump has said he doesn't plan to make a VP pick until much closer to the Republican convention. That's just over 2 months from now in Milwaukee. Savannah?
All right. Hallie Jackson, thank you.
Yeah, he wants to allow them more time to kiss his ass before picking.
And to pass the litmus test, which is going to be denying the election.
Yeah.
And they were at that event, all these possible VP picks that are trying to impress him and making their appearances on the Sunday shows to be the most radical they can be. At the event this weekend that they keep referencing, the donor event, Donald Trump walked onto the stage, according to reporting from the New York Times, to that song that he recorded with the insurrectionists, the national anthem that he recorded with the insurrectionists. I guess I haven't heard it, but
it's a mockery.
Sounds horrifying. And of course it is, illustrating his support of the insurrectionists. So these people know who they're dealing with.
Yeah.
That's why they're going on these news shows and acting like they're not going to accept the election results, because that's what Trump will require of them.
Yeah.
Now, the comments that he made, this is again according to reporting from the New York Times, he said, quote, "These people," referring to the Biden administration, quote, "these people are running a Gestapo administration," quote, "and it's the only thing they have, and it's the only way they're going to win, in their opinion, and it's actually killing them, but it doesn't bother me." Of course, we know nothing bothers Donald Trump. He's very unaggrieved, Donald Trump.
Very also secure.
Yes.
Not an insecure man at all.
Yes.
He's a titan.
Yes. And before making...
Conquering hero, Brittany.
Yes. And before making this comparison, again, according to reporting from the New York Times, Mr. Trump baselessly insisted that the various indictments against him and his allies in several states were being orchestrated by the Biden administration, which, let's just pause on the reporting aspect of this. It is funny that he continues to say that the DOJ is being weaponized against him, for example, when 2 Democrats are under investigation right now. Of course, we have Senator Bob Menendez, and now we have Henry Cuellar from Texas.
Both have been indicted.
Yes.
It's gone beyond the investigatory phase. There's indictments. There's evidence that has been presented to a grand jury, and the Biden DOJ is securing their prosecutions.
Right.
So what is it again? Witch hunt.
Doesn't seem to be weaponized against you. Seems to just be kind of, doing investigations appropriately.
Seeking justice.
Right. Continuing with this reporting from the New York Times, quote, he said that before his indictment, he was gentler on Mr. Biden, despite the outcome of the 2020 election. You have to respect the office of the presidency, Mr. Trump said. And I never talked to him like this. And
Sleepy Joe, he's demented. He's hiding in the basement.
Right.
He can't remember. He doesn't know where he is. Shut the fuck up, Donald Trump.
He then went on to say that Democrats use welfare to cheat in elections and said that he would need an attorney general with courage and mocked Bill Barr, who was his former attorney general,
who has endorsed him.
Right, just said he would vote for him, even though he knows how dangerous he is. And so this bit about welfare, this will be the last thing that we read from this quote. When you are a Democrat, you start off essentially at 40% because you have civil service, you have the unions, and you have welfare, Mr. Trump said on Saturday. And don't underestimate welfare. They get welfare to vote, and then they cheat on top of that. They cheat.
Stranglehold on facts and reality, Brittany Page.
Yes.
Well, he also got held in contempt again for a 10th time today by Judge Juan Merchan. And it's something I want to ask you about, Brittany. I'm a little bothered that, well, let me just read this from the punishment and order section of this 5-page order. We'll link in the show notes. It says, however, they say, well, your defendant will now face a fine of $1,000 for the one misstep in the held in contempt. However, because this is now the 10th time that this court has found defendant in criminal contempt, spanning 3 separate motions, it is apparent that monetary fines have not and will not suffice to deter defendant from violating this court's lawful orders. Therefore, defendant is hereby put on notice that if appropriate and warranted, those are words you need to pay attention to, that if appropriate and warranted, future violations of its lawful orders will be punishable by incarceration, and it is hereby ordered, blah, blah, blah. So my question is, do you think he's actually prepared to go through with that? And what would jail look like for Donald Trump? Would it be an overnight? Would it be a few hours in a cell? And also, if he's not really actually prepared to do so, don't fucking say it.
Yeah, it's pretty disappointing, and I think he's obviously getting special treatment. I think about the years that I spent working in a treatment court, in a DUI drug court, and jail sanctions are part of the treatment program. And there are other types of sanctions. It's not as though every time you do something wrong, you get a jail sanction. There can be other types of things that you can do, write an essay, various things. But there would be no circumstance in which someone has failed to do something appropriately 10 times and would avoid getting a jail sanction. That just does not happen for people who are not Donald Trump. And
brazen disrespect for the court.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And so he is getting special treatment. There would be no other person that would be afforded these privileges to be able to disrespect the court this many times and to not have consequences for that. And it's only because he's wealthy. It's only because he has power. And everyone should be enraged by that, because that's the point of justice, of the law, right? It doesn't matter if you have power. It doesn't matter if you have money. You're supposed to be equal.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's absolutely enraging, but I don't know what jail would look like, because the Secret Service has to be there with him. It's not like there's actually going to be a threat. I think when you use jail sanctions in some of these, programs or whatever we're talking about, there is an element to go into this place, see how terrible it is.
Yeah, how dangerous it is.
Be in this terrible environment, and that's supposed to be a deterrent. Oh, I don't want to go back there. It was terrible. It was dirty. It was scary. It was, he's not really going to have an actual jail experience. I mean, I think he will act like he did when he comes out.
He acts like a cold courtroom is jail.
Right. He's like, I'm freezing. Bring a jacket then. Jesus. Right? Bring a jacket.
Get that guy a Donald Trump branded Snuggie or something.
Yeah, put a Snuggie on. That would be perfect.
I can just see the AI art coming out right now. Donald Trump in a Trump-branded Snuggie.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Well, listen, the Veep stakes continues. We mentioned it a little bit with that list of signatories on that Senate letter. Kristi Noem has been making the rounds, talking about murdering her puppy dog.
Oh, God.
And she went on the weekend shows again this weekend, and then this morning to talk about an excerpt from the book that was found where she claims to have had a meeting in North Korea with Kim Jong-un. Can you believe this?
An interesting choice for the governor of South Dakota to be going to North Korea and meeting with Kim Jong-un.
The book is called No Going Back, but it sounds like the publisher, Center Street, is going back on a couple of the details in the book.
Oh, I don't believe so.
Specifically, when you write in the book, I remember when I met with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un, I'm sure he underestimated me. That, as I understand, is now being removed from the book at your request.
Yes, when I became aware of that, we changed the content, and the future editions will be adjusted. And, I appreciate that. I've met with many world leaders. I've traveled around the world. I should not have put that anecdote in the book, and at my request, they have removed it.
That specific meeting didn't happen?
I'm saying that I'm not talking about that meeting. I'm not talking about my meetings with world leaders.
But you
there's
do
some
talk
that are
about
in the
meetings
book.
with world leaders.
There's some that are in the book, and then there's some that's not in the book. Many
but why
of them
are there
actually.
two specific mentions of meeting Kim Jong-un and talking about him, and a specific memory? I'm sure he underestimated me, having no clue about my experience staring down little tyrants. Did you tell your ghostwriter to write that?
I specifically have worked on policy for over 30 years. And over that time, I have traveled around the world, and I have met with leaders around the world. And that anecdote, I've asked them to change the content, and it will be removed.
It's a simple question. Did you or did you not meet with Kim Jong-un?
That's the answer that I have for you, is that it will be adjusted. And as soon as I became aware of it, that content was removed.
What about this?
This is truly a remarkable skill, and it is a skill. I mean, it's not a useful skill. It's not a skill that you would want to have, but
and in her case, not an effective skill.
Yeah, to be able to, without shame. I mean, you have to have zero shame, and you're being asked a direct question, right? You wrote about meeting Kim Jong-un in this book. It's now being removed. So, did that not happen? What happened here? I've met with a lot of world leaders, and I've done a lot of stuff. And as soon as we found out it was in the book, we're taking it out. It's like, who's we? Did you not write the book?
When I became aware that the thing that I wrote, quote unquote, was in the book that I wrote, I told him, take the thing that I consciously wrote into the book that I just am now becoming aware is in the book. Make sure you take that out of the book.
Well, and apparently the audiobook has also already been recorded.
Of course.
And so she read that part in the audiobook, and they're going to need to edit it out of the audiobook as well. So, and the publisher has announced, we're editing it out. Any further questions need to go to the author.
Yeah.
Because they're like, this is not our problem, bro. This is your problem.
It is strange that the publisher doesn't employ a fact checker to go through and make sure that the things are correct, because in no way unless seeing Kim Jong-un on TV constitutes a meeting with the dictator of North Korea, Kristi Noem did not meet with a murderous, genocidal dictator of North Korea, Kim Jong-un. No, she did not. She has probably never seen him even in real life. Like, she's a liar. And I think what this speaks to, there's one element of this speaks to, is the weird lack of reality within the Republican Party, that as she's writing this, she's thinking, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. And doesn't think through how it's going to be received by the mainstream media or the general public, that this is not true. And why are you writing this? And then when you're asked about it, you get defiant and, well, that's just my statement. That's my statement.
Yeah, it's.
I'm not going to get into specifics about the world meetings that I've had. It's not specifics. It's did you or did you not meet with Kim Jong-un?
Yeah.
Because it can be verified.
Yeah, I don't get it. As someone who turns bright red at the slightest change in my emotional state, I get slightly embarrassed. I'm bright red. I get slightly angry. I get a rage rash on my neck. I cannot imagine how she just sits there And she has to know, I don't know, that she is not answering any of the questions from the 3 people in front of her, and she just charges ahead, not answering those questions, knowing that everyone is like, what is going on in this person's head?
And that's not even to mention the puppy murder, you know?
Yeah.
And the goat murder and the horse murder.
And her wanting Commander to be murdered.
Right. Yeah.
Biden's dog. She's talking about how that would be like one of the first order of business would to be shooting Commander as well.
Which, by the way, makes me wonder about the Secret Service agents who have been bitten, because Brian Tyler Cohen has video of him getting licked all over his face by Commander on the White House grounds. He's not a vicious, crazy-ass dog.
Yeah, it's very disturbing.
Commander knows. That's the deal. Commander he's Antifa. He's anti-fascist. We're going to leave you there. We'd love to know what you think about this. These or any other topics that are on your mind. 657-464-7609. Of course, you can email us, idoubt@dollemore.com. If you want to help support this show, if you want to help us make this show, we invite you to our Patreon page. It is patreon.com/idoubt-it-podcast. For $2 a month, you can help move the conversation forward on an episode-by-episode basis, and we welcome you to join the Patreon family. We're going to leave you there. We love and appreciate you. Thanks to your support, your feedback, your communication. We love you very much. For Brittany Page, I'm Jesse Dollemore, and this has been I Doubt It.